Okay guys, it is London's birthday week. We are about to have an 8-year-old, which is absolutely wild to me. London wants me to tell you that his birthday is a matter of days away, not a week away. Little punk. But we decided, in honor of his 8th birthday, to kind of share a little bit of what we've gone through since he's been born. For many of you guys, you don't know that he was born with a rare metabolic condition known as MCADD. And now I'm about to sound really smart because I'm gonna say what that means. It means medium chain acetyl-CoA dehydrogenase deficiency. It's a very big word, but we are gonna kind of explain what that is. Not too in depth, because I mean, it's very nerdy. It's genetic DNA, molecule makeup, all sorts of stuff like that. But we figured we'd kind of share a little bit about it and honor London on his 8th birthday week so that you guys could get a little glimpse into what it's been like raising this little spitfire of a child. And then we wanted to share a few things that we're looking forward to in the future with him, because this kid has got such a calling on his life, such an anointing just for people and for the Lord. So we're pretty pumped to see him growing and thriving, because when he was first born, we were told that he could have died within the first, what was it, week?
Probably wouldn't have made it out of the hospital.
They said without this, basically without this diagnosis and without us knowing what he was born with, that he might not have even made it out of the hospital alive. And here we are today about to celebrate his 8th birthday later on this week. All right, so this video is gonna be informal. We're gonna be making dinner, getting things prepped while we kind of tell you guys, because let's be real, life gets crazy and we don't have time to just sit down and like chat with our cameras. So we're about to make, what is it, venison burgers?
Venison burgers.
Venison burgers, wrapped in bacon. I'm not making that, he's making that. And I'm going to cut up the pineapple while we get going. But basically, London was born March 13th, 2013. 3/13/13.
Yep.
At 10:15 p.m.
10:56.
10:56 p.m. after basically 32
almost
hours,
33 hours.
basically 33 hours of labor, and then an emergency C-section.
Yep.
So my pregnancy, I do not thrive in pregnancy mode. I'm not the nicest pregnant woman. I'm trying to be kind to myself. Yeah, I manifest a lot when I'm pregnant. And so I had some complications with gestational diabetes and things like that. And come to find out, it's pretty common with kids born with MCADD that the mother goes through these things.
Yeah.
But basically, we had been told, will you hand me a cutting board and a knife?
You don't want the little pineapple?
Do we have one?
Thing? Yeah, remember I bought a metal one.
Okay, yeah, let's try that.
Okay, let me find it. I think it's in there, actually.
Guys, we have so many stinking kitchen tools. Like, I don't know where it is.
It's here somewhere.
I don't know. But we were told when we were first pregnant to make sure to get the expanded newborn screening heel prick test. So there's a standard heel prick test performed on all babies where they get a little drop of blood and run it through a panel of different diagnoses, everything from autism to basically everything that you would consider some of the mainstream, more well-known different kinds of disorders that children can be born with. Well, I, of course, because blogs were a huge thing in 2013, we didn't really have a whole ton of them out there, but there were some mommy blogs. And I had read on one to pay a little bit extra to do the expanded newborn screening. So we chose to do that expanded newborn screening. It was about $15 extra, which when you think about it, you're being charged $15 per little bitty Tylenol when you're in the hospital anyways, so what's it matter? We did it, and thank God we did, because that tiny little heel prick helped us to get an early diagnosis on our child that helped save his life. But even more so than that, he was born, and when he was born, he didn't cry, anything like that, and he had very, very low blood sugar. So kids with MCADD cannot convert stored fat to energy. Specifically, medium chain fats cause a big issue with them, things like avocados and coconuts. But when he was first born, he was given a tiny little bottle of basically pure sugar water. Pure sugar water. Oh, guys, we found the pineapple vice. That thing's in, what is that?
Huh?
Have y'all seen that?
Yeah.
Seems
We had a
intense.
plastic one at one point and it broke.
I don't know how to work that. But he was given this little bottle of sugar water, which inevitably saved his life at the time, and we didn't know it. But needless to say, it's a disorder that we had never heard about. It's a disorder that even a lot of local pediatricians had never heard about.
In fact, only one had.
One did. And by the pure grace of God, it's the one that we said, yeah, we want to use that doctor. She showed up and she had one other case in her entire career.
So, yeah, after he was born, Morgan actually, they had to put her out. So I was the only one that got to go in the nursery with him and everything. And basically, our pediatrician that we picked, that we'd actually never met before, came in, introduced herself, and said, hey, I have some news for you. We found something that showed up on the heel prick test, and this is like, I don't know, minutes later it seemed like. It could have been an hour or so, I really don't know. But it seemed like it was pretty quick. And she came in and said, hey, I think this is what he has. And so we want to kind of treat him like he's got it, just to be on the safe side. Luckily, that's what happened, and she knew exactly what to do, and he didn't become one of the statistics, because prior to 2009, it was the leading cause of SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. So we definitely dodged a bullet there. God was definitely watching over us on that one. So long story short, she turned out to be a major blessing in our lives. Not only did she catch exactly what it was that he had right out the gate, but also had great references for us, sent us to OU Children's Hospital, which was awesome because they had an amazing genetics lab there. And basically we got the treatment started really quick. And since then, it's been nice. The bad thing is there were several hospitalizations in the meantime.
So we immediately, once we got a diagnosis, which was a whole other vlog in and of itself, what we had to go through to get one. The poor kid was in and out of hospitals, getting pricked, tests, all sorts of things, probably 4 times in the first month of life, in addition to urine samples, different, honestly, like genetic threads were being ripped apart on these studies just to ensure that he did or did not have it. Because if he was diagnosed with it, it meant that we would have a pretty rigid feeding schedule for his first few years of life. So what that ended up looking like was, yes, we went to OU Children's Hospital. We got the diagnosis that he did confirm positive for having MCADD. And while we got that and it was scary, we were kind of relieved to know that there was a treatment path in place so it could be managed throughout the course of his actual little life into adulthood to live a full, thriving, happy, healthy life. What that looked like for us, though, was feeding around the clock every 2 hours until further notice. And now I know a lot of people out there are probably like, well, you already feed babies like that. If you have ever had to wake a sleeping baby and tap their little face, I mean, we were in tears multiple nights because we couldn't get him to wake up long enough to eat the certain amount of ounces of formula that he had to have. And it worked out that he had to be formula fed, just to some complications that I had, because there is no way I would have been able to keep up milk production for the food that he was going to have to intake. So for 10 months,
Yeah.
10 months, we had to feed him around the clock every 2 hours. And sometimes that was super easy. I mean, our kid has always loved to eat, but he really loves to sleep. And that might be the only thing he loves more than eating.
True story.
And so thankfully we learned how to operate on basically no sleep at all that first year. And it was very, very difficult. But we were told if you can get through the first year without any hospitalization, we were told this through a support group with other parents that have raised children from baby to adulthood that have MCADD, that have different kinds of metabolic disorders, different kind of fatty oxidation disorders, which is another grouping this is put into. If we could get through that first year without a hospitalization, we would probably have one of the easiest MCADD cases, because it's very rare that kids do not have to be hospitalized. So month 11 hits and we haven't had a hospitalization. Everything's been able to be managed at home. And then it hit his first rotavirus case. And we were like, well, rotavirus isn't even MCADD related. We'll be fine. The thing with MCADD is, think about it like a car. If you have a leak in your, what it would be, a gas?
Your fuel tank.
Your fuel, I was going to say your gas can. A leak in your fuel tank, eventually your car is just going to stop. And kids with MCADD, when that fuel tank runs out, which would be like our fat reserves, he can't pull from his fat reserves. So the only thing that works is food keeping him fueled. And then he has to take a special medicine to flush out the excess fats. Well, when they're sick, either things are coming out the attic or the basement, for lack of better terms.
The attic or the basement. Wow.
Basically, when that happens, they go into almost a internal catabolic state where things start to shut down and feed off of themselves. And it can be fatal. So if we don't get him immediately to a hospital to get a special kind of IV drip, he could potentially pass. And so thankfully we have carried an emergency protocol letter from the day he was diagnosed from a special team of geneticists. So if we walk into an ER, we show them that piece of paper. And I hate that it seems very disrespectful to everybody else in the ER, but because of the life-threatening circumstance that his diagnosis does carry, we show them that piece of paper and we're immediately treated, which helps my mama heart because I know my baby's being taken care of. It breaks my mama heart because I walk with our kid and I see all these other parents who are freaking out with their children that have been there for hours, and then this one family walks in and gets immediately treated. But with their condition, it's that dire. And the treatment is typically just a simple IV drip of D10, which is pure glucose sugar.
Or an energy shot for a sick kid that at not quite a year old makes him bounce around the little crib in the hospital and sit there and...
It was hilarious.
It was really funny, honestly.
But he ended up coming out stronger than ever. But while we were in the hospital, y'all, that first hospitalization, he not only had rotavirus, not only had complications to his MCADD, but then developed
double ear infection
and croup.
Yeah.
So we were there for a while.
It was like, what, a week and a half?
Almost 2 weeks. And seeing a tiny baby he had that IV moved around so many times because they're like, we need him to sit still. I'm like, y'all are pumping an 11-month-old with sugar. This kid is lucky that he's not literally climbing out of the bars within this bed. They had to give him a crib where the bars were like, we called it baby prison because it looked like a tiny little prison. He'd like put his little face through it.
And then with the croup,
yeah,
they also had to throw on the little plastic tent.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it was...
We would take turns sleeping in the croup tent with him.
Yeah, that was weird. It's like a tiny sauna.
And I'm just going to say this, when babies have rotavirus, they poop a lot. So not only are we in this like sauna of a tent with a crib, but then you have a baby that's literally explosive diarrhea.
Yeah, you're on high bomb alert all the time, and you're trapped in this little plastic box of poop.
It was so gross.
Coughing baby that is like...
And he was in such good spirits the whole time, and we're over there exhausted, and he's just over there. It was crazy to me.
It's funny looking back on it now, but you never know which end it was going to come out of. And I will tell you, and all you parents that have had a kid that's had rotavirus before, you know the smell.
Oh my gosh. And I have the world's worst gag reflex.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. But thankfully, we came out of that hospitalization. He was perfectly fine. Celebrated his first birthday with 1 hospitalization.
Yes.
So I was very pleased and very excited about that.
Yeah. So it has gotten easier as time's gone on. For one, he's continued to learn a little bit more about
what his body needs, and if he is sick, what needs to happen. That hasn't come easy. He has ended up going through
multiple hospitalizations.
We're in the double digits of hospitalizations now for MCADD complications. I think it was 14.
Something like that.
14.
But most of it has progressively gotten
less.
I
would say years 2 through 3 were the hardest.
Definitely
because he couldn't quite understand what his little body was going through.
Why he had to eat all the time.
Why he had to eat, or if he was sick, why mommy and daddy are over there like trying to force feed him food.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all, I was literally like lifting his tongue, squirting frosting underneath his tongue to try and help keep sugars up.
Yeah.
And so thankfully at about ages, I'd probably say 5, he
Yeah.
started to kind of understand, and he kind of knew like if he didn't eat while he was sick or if he had an issue, he was going to the hospital. And if he went to the hospital, it probably meant a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we've had different complications at the hospital as well. And that's
a whole
other story, which we will share eventually.
Yeah.
But I mean, he literally was born with minutes numbering his little life had we not gotten that diagnosis.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, he's literally almost lost his arm due to complications with IVs.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's had a lot of doctors. But once we ended up moving from Oklahoma down here to South Texas, we were kind of bummed to be leaving our team at OU Children's Hospital because they were awesome. Phenomenal.
They were really awesome.
They were so good because not every genetics department will treat metabolic disorders like fatty oxidation.
Yeah.
They aren't really well versed in it. So when we moved down here, we knew we would be going to Texas Children's Hospital. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of scary to think like these people that had been with your child up until this point. And I mean, we moved right after he turned 1. And so it was right after the hospitalization. So that was scary.
Yeah.
And we ended up meeting with his new team of geneticists at Texas Children's Hospital. And we literally got the geneticist that wrote the book.
Yes. The literal
book that they train geneticists with for fatty oxidation disorders.
And specifically, MCADD.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Unfortunately, but fortunate for him, so congratulations, you know who you are. He ended up moving to become a professor to teach on this to help train up more geneticists to come out of it. We have another great doctor who has been there forever and is very well versed.
Yeah, and they're a great team. They really are.
We've got a local children's hospital here that has a geneticist, but they do not treat that condition.
No.
But the team at Driscoll Children's Hospital here in Corpus Christi has countless times been amazing.
Yeah.
They have countless times been there for us whenever only one of us could be at the hospital because the other was at work or out of town when the attack happened or the MCADD flare-up happened.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one time we had nurses at Driscoll Children's Hospital literally helping to tuck me in after we had that tiny blanket and London was just freezing. They were bringing in blankets off on their off times. I had nurse friends who were coming up during their one lunch break for the day, bringing me food and then saying, hey, once you're done, why don't you shower? And just stayed in the room with London. Yeah. But I will say this, with the tumultuous beginning that kid had, it was very up and down roller coaster. We didn't know what was going to happen. He had surgery because of other things when he was about 2. And then as it's progressively gotten easier over the years, we're seeing a certain level of responsibility that he's picking up for it as well. He knows certain signs to look for.
Yeah, and he's gotten much better just in general of not only recognizing that, but then actively doing something like, hey, I need to eat something.
He'll even tell people if he's out and about with friends and family now. Yeah. If he can tell the little cues his body gives him that, hey, we're starting to crash. He's got physical signs that will start to show in terms of he'll get really purple circles under his eyes.
Yeah, he'll start to get a little bit lethargic. And
he'll know if he has he's even said, like, my arms feel really heavy. Mm-hmm. He knows, I probably need to eat something real quick, which are typical indicators to most people. But it just means for him, instead of most people that have a healthy metabolic system, it means, he should probably eat something in the next few hours. It means he probably needs to eat something within the next few minutes.
Mm-hmm. And his is a little bit more exacerbated. And so
he has been dramatic since day one.
That's true.
He comes by, honestly.
But it has gotten much easier. What's really amazing too is a lot of our friends and family are very well aware of the condition and what needs to be done, and that's helped a lot too, especially at church. with all the leaders knowing, you know, he has this metabolic disorder, and, you know, if he starts to, you know, act a certain way or whatever, we need to get him something to eat. And
thankfully our church just knows kids need snacks. So there's always goldfish or animal
they always
crackers.
need snacks. It doesn't even have to be that they've got a disorder or anything like that.
Kids are
They always
always need snacks.
But, you know, moving down here too, the other thing is we had to leave our pediatrician.
Dr. Husainy in Liberal, Kansas.
She was awesome.
You have probably been one of the biggest, most pivotal people in our child's health journey.
Yeah.
So you may never see this, but thank you.
So we had to find another pediatrician when we got down here, obviously, because we couldn't drive 12 hours to go see her.
I tried to convince him, but he said no.
Yeah. So the one we found here, just so happens, also had dealt with MCADD patients and currently has another one.
Have one more, and they are in Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
We have yet to meet them. There's HIPAA laws, obviously. We can't be like, oh, can you give me their cell phone number?
Yeah.
But even in the state of Texas, there's not a ton.
Yeah.
And it is difficult, but we've been very blessed.
Yeah. Overall, it's honestly been a good experience. There's much worse that could have happened.
Oh my gosh,
but,
I can't
you know, we're very thankful for what we've learned, because in all of this, you know, we've helped to, or had the opportunity to help other families go through these newborn screenings, and maybe they didn't find MCADD, but maybe they found something else that needed urgent treatment.
I actually...
And it saved lives.
I had a friend whose sister... Whoa. Our neighbor's cutting down trees. I don't know if you can hear it. We actually had a friend who, their sister, I believe it was, went to our church, or they went to our church when I was really young, and they had a child shortly after we had London. And when we found out he had MCADD, like, you bet I was like sharing every single detail, because I was like, if this can save our baby's life, I want it to be the saving grace for everybody else's babies. And so, I mean, I had a blog forever. We were published in different magazines with his MCADD story. Tons of different areas of advocacy, especially when he was really little. And they ended up reaching out saying, hey, I'm terrified. Our daughter was just diagnosed in Denver with MCADD. Do you have any resources? And we, at that point, London was less than a year old, and I was like, hey, here's everything we have. Here's what we're learning. This is what we got. And that has been amazing. We've ended up connecting with other families across the country that have children that deal with this. And it's been cool because they've shared, even like those that have grown children that are getting married and that played sports. That's another big thing, that they are thriving. And with proper care, they can. Okay, so we have to get dinner ready. And when I say we, I mean Colton. So meet Chef Colton. He needs a little hat right there. It'll be cute. So one of the things we were told when London was first born is he may never be a kid who can run for prolonged periods of time. If you have ever met our child, he never stops running.
No.
He never stops jumping around, climbing on something, dancing. He is always moving. And thankfully, he has a very sturdy fork, because the kid loves to eat. He doesn't miss a meal. He definitely doesn't miss a snack. He makes sure to come in and he's like, hey, I need more food. Hey, that's not near enough. So
that was the story today at lunch.
We went to lunch with friends today, and I mean, he was fed a meal that would be fit for a child. And he was like, he came up to us, he goes, y'all, I need more food.
I hadn't even got the first bite to my mouth yet, and he's like, can I have another?
It's just wild to me that all the things that they said he wasn't gonna be able to do, he is. And so we have began over the years, as we have grown in our own faith, praying and prophesying and declaring healing, life, everything over this kid, that the things the doctors say will not define him. He will not be subject to the symptoms. And the more and more we speak life out, the more and more life becomes abundant in his everyday, like, for another, I can't stop saying life, but just life. And it's one of those things that I think, I'm not one of those, like, what you put out into the universe is what you're going to get. No, sometimes life's going to throw you a hard curveball. And it did with us whenever London was born. But the Lord, in his goodness, his mercy, and in his graciousness, will walk you through it if you will let him. And as we have allowed the Lord to lead in that, we've not only seen our son thrive in a health manner, but his own little spiritual journey with the Lord is being birthed out of it, which is really cool, I think.
Now, London is awesome. He's highly energetic. He really doesn't have any complaints. The last few times that he has gotten sick, it hasn't been severe enough for us to go to the hospital, which has been amazing. And really, he's just kind of he's living a normal life as a kid. He plays all the time. He's running all the time. He's jumping all the time. He's constantly sweaty because of all the running and jumping all the time. And he's getting to enjoy tap class and all sorts of things. He keeps up with all the kids, if not outruns all the kids or outlasts them. It's just amazing how much energy he has now. And really, we haven't had any complications. It's really been good. But I will say that, those first few years were a little hairy, and I'm glad that now we have some rest in knowing that he is really past the worst of it. And now it's just maintaining that and making sure that he's progressing and that he's really learning the cues and the things to look for. Obviously that he's taking his medicine. He does have to take a supplement that helps his body regulate his fat and metabolize different things. And really, it's been pretty easy, which is awesome. So that should be a word of encouragement for those of you that are maybe just now getting into this, or just found out, or maybe you're right in the middle of it. In a lot of cases, it gets much better, especially, like we said, after age 5, it got lots better. And so, like this last weekend, he got to enjoy a sleepover with his friends, and they played until like midnight, and he was good. As long as he has something to eat and has something in his digestive system to keep him going, he's good to go. And so really it's just about having snacks around and making sure that they're not too fatty. One other thing with the MCADD, medium chain fats, is that he has to be very restricted on having like avocado and coconut and other things that are high in medium chain fats because his body can't really metabolize it. Luckily for us, he doesn't like either of those things, so we really don't have to worry about it. So it's not a big deal. And he knows all of this stuff really, really well. So that helps us out a lot. We feel really good about, him going over to a friend's house and playing and not have to worry about him having a metabolic crash or something like that. Because everybody is just, they're really good about it, and they're really receptive to it, and they're very sensitive to it. Even though he's, like I said, got past the worst of it, there's still always that little bit of a threat. And so we always tell our friends that, or his friends' parents anyway, if he's going to stay over there with them and play and everything, just kind of a precaution. And then we like to stay, within a short driving distance of where he is, just in case an issue may arise, but really hasn't happened.
But thankfully I have in-laws, you have parents that are awesome at this. So we are able to take trips.
Yes.
Once a year, typically. We haven't been able to, thank you, COVID. But typically we will go overseas for a few days, and we know without a shadow of a doubt in our minds that he's going to be well cared for and taken care of.
Yeah.
Partially for me, a big part of that comes from the fact that one hospitalization, he was out of town, out of the state actually, for training. And we were living in the same apartment complex at that time with my in-laws. And once London started having issues, I texted my mother-in-law, and she didn't even pause. She was immediately over there helping me to clean up vomit, get everything ready to go, and stayed with me for the whole majority of the process. So
we hope that you are not eating while watching this.
Yeah, sorry. We've lost that whole little factor.
Yeah, well.
But if you have kiddos, I don't care what they may be going through. Some may be healthy and thriving, and that is awesome, praise the Lord. But you may have kiddos that have different types of disorders and things that are very different from what we're describing. And we just want to encourage you by saying, God's got this. You're stronger than you think you are, because in your weakness, he is made strong. And the strength of God, I don't even want to challenge that, because we all know it's going to win. So,
oh, yeah, for sure.
But y'all, we meant this video to be 10 minutes. It's not. But we're excited to just continue raising our son, seeing him turn into a young man. Because whenever he took his shoes off the other night with all the boys, I was like, you are not a little boy anymore. You was a kid. Them things stink. So we are moving into that next phase of his little life. And I can't say little life anymore because he's not tiny.
No.
So
we measured him the other day, and he's like within 8 inches of you. Like, it's crazy.
He's here, but we're just excited to see him grow into a young man and into adulthood. We've been praying and prophesying over him, praying for his future wife. And it's one of those things that's crazy, because we are seeing the fruit of the prayers that we prayed years ago when we were crying out in desperation in the hospital rooms.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat to see that. But we have so many things we want to just share and say about him, and we will over time. And for many of y'all, he's one of your favorite parts of this channel, because I mean, he's got the biggest personality of us all.
Yeah.
But we believe he's going to be an amazing tool for the kingdom of God. He has no filter whatsoever. We're working on delivery, because we were like, bro, there's sometimes where it's just not good. But
and I do want to say to all you parents out there, if you're going through stuff like this, I know that there's times where you want to give in to blaming yourself because of past things that you've done. It's like, it's not your fault. You're doing a great job. Yeah. Keep your head up and things will get better. Let the Lord work and do what he does best. Yeah. And just be there for the ride, be there for support, and do your best, because that's all you can do.
And it's okay to ask for help. The first 2 hospitalizations, I don't think I really asked for help.
No. You didn't.
I didn't. And I remember literally like getting a shower after 5 or 6 days finally. And because London didn't want to be held by anyone but mama. Or there was hospitalizations where he only wanted daddy. And those first few ones, because he was so little, I think were the reason why it was a whole clingy mama moment. And I remember sitting in the bottom of the shower just crying, thinking, I can't do this. But then someone sent to me this poem, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but if I do, I'll post it here. The Guardians, or
Guardians of the Galaxy?
No, that would have been awesome. But it was like Guardians of God's precious, or of God's special children. And it was talking about children that are born with a special need of some sort, and how God chooses those specific parents who were built and bred and had life experiences leading up to becoming parents to raise those children, because they were the only ones that would be able to raise that child. And I think that's so huge for you to realize. Like, all children are special, but you as the parent were specifically hand-picked, chosen, and appointed to raise that kid because of what you possess, because what your spouse possesses, because you two are the only ones that are capable of raising that child to the fullness of everything God has for them.
Yep.
And that's one of those, we not only help to point him towards how to live a healthy life, but how to seek out the Lord when he's struggling. There's been times where he's been frustrated because I'm like, hey, you need to stop running around so much. We don't have any food on us right now.
It's been a big frustration.
We need you to kind of slow down a little bit. And he's like, well, I'm mad, I'm frustrated, I don't want to. And I'm like, okay, how do we process this? Let's ask Jesus right now. Let's pray right now that the Lord would come into the car. And there's been times whenever we just thank the Lord, because we're like, man, like, this is crazy. You're doing so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my like 1,000 cents on the whole matter. But if you are considering whether or not to get the expanded heel prick test, and you are expecting,
do it.
Whatever state you're in, do it. I can't say that enough. That a tiny drop of blood saved his life.
Yeah. And it's not that they're taking more, it's just that they're screening for more.
Yes, they're not going to sit there and like pump blood out of your newborn infant.
And some of them, I guess, in some hospitals they call it extended newborn screening.
Extended, expanded. Check your own state. They're all called something different.
And some states automatically do it.
Where London was born at the time, he did not. but
No.
I don't know if that's changed. But just check it out. It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
But
it could literally save a life.
yeah. So we'll be back and tell you how all this turns out. But so far it looks good, right?
Except for this patty over here.
This patty looks questionable. We'll give.
I was going to do that one for London as a smaller one, so.
We're talking about how excited we are that our child is thriving, and we're giving him the crappy patty.
Just smaller.
Okay, if anything, he's gonna want that one.
Yeah, I know.
Tiny moments filled with golden, perfect weekends. I could dream all night. We don't need.
You excited?
Is that the deer?
Yeah.
Mhm. Wrapped in bacon.
Why do you put bacon on it?
Why wouldn't,
Why wouldn't
you?
you?
Are you excited?
Never tried deer.
I've never tried deer either.
You're about to.
Then why do you put bacon on it? Let's take a little nibble of that one.
All right, take a
You
nibble.
want to try a little piece of it?
Yeah. What does it taste like? Tastes good?
Probably tastes like ground beef.
Tastes like beef.
Yeah.
All right,
It's just a little leaner.
let's do it. Okay.
It tastes first out. Really tastes me, man.
Here we go. My gosh, it looks so hot.
Look at that. The steam. The aroma.
Okay.
Take it all in.
Oh my gosh.
Is it good?
It looks really good.
Do you like it?
Already put it in the wrist.
So is it better than beef?
No, but it's good. But I like my beef, like, I like steaks, like, almost rare, so. All right, you
Well,
try.
as far as hamburger goes.
You try. All right.
Mine tastes
All right,
like a
I'm just
bacon
going
jar.
straight meat here, and we're gonna try this thing here. Let me rinse my hand off real fast.
Y'all, this is the state of our house.
Yeah.
Dishes are overflowing. I don't even want to talk about the laundry room, but real life. Okay.
All right, so here we go. We're just going with the meat, and we'll see. Oh, hot.
No, it is hot, isn't it? It's like it was on fire a minute ago. What do you think? Isn't that good?
Mm-hmm.
And he's
Okay,
in-
this is better than beef. It really is.
Bacon ball.
It is good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, there's the birthday boy of the week. Thank you guys for watching.
Yep.
Not
Subscribe,
my real
do all
birthday.
that fun stuff.
Not
I'm gonna
the
enjoy
days
this
a
burger.
week. 5 days.
Oh, 5 days.
You gotta regret it, man.
Hopefully I don't regret it, and by the time this vlog goes up, it'll be like 2 days away, so hey.
Yeah.
But,
So, yeah. Click the little bell. Subscribe. I'm gonna eat this bad boy.
follow us for more recipes. We legit shared nothing.
Bye.
I am richer